Well, bonjour and hello, and a big welcome to all of you participating in this site session. And thank you for joining us. We'll be exploring what buyers are seeking for the future and what this means for successful re-entry of incentive travel. We're looking forward to a wonderful and informative session with a panel of some of the leading global industry experts, which I'm sure you'll recognize them. And I hope you leave today's session feeling reinvigorated, re-energized as we navigate a new journey into this new year. I'm Jennifer Addersall, Director of Incentive Travel Destination Canada's Business Events team. And in this session, we will listen to how to define or redefine the new incentive program. We'll get to explore what buyers are seeking for the future and what this means, again, for successful reentry, the incentive travel at scale. So let me introduce you to our esteemed panel of industry professionals. Anne-Marie Rogers, Site International Board Director, as well as Director of Meetings, Incentives, and Events at Direct Travel. Colette Bainey, President of Site Australia and New Zealand, as well as Director at the Conference Room. And Chris Clark, Director at Purple Dog Solutions based in the UK. Thank you, Anne-Marie, Colette, and Chris for being part of this panel today. So let's get started. Let's define the new incentive program. Chris, as you are re-envisioning the new landscape in incentive planning, what is it about a destination that you are evaluating and prioritizing through your new set of eyes?
Well, thanks, Jennifer. Before I came on this, I canvassed a few clients of mine and a few sort of partners of mine in the industry to try and get a bit of an insight on what is going on out there as well, because we are a small agency, and as a small agency, you know, I suppose the negative is you don't have that breadth, if you like, of 100 people in the office who are dealing with 100 different clients and finding out what they want. But there seems to be a very common theme running through all of this, which it's still keeping an eye on what's new, what's hot, what's inspirational, but actually post-COVID, let's talk post-COVID, because one day we will be after it. I think that what's coming across loud and clear is almost a little bit of a back to the future situation, where people are pretty much looking at managing risk better. And when you manage risk better, you need to look at destinations maybe that have a degree of familiarity. You know, so almost revisiting some of the older destinations or some of the tried and tested destinations that are out there, being creative with destinations that maybe have been used before. It's also an opportunity to see what sort of has been developing in destinations that maybe you haven't visited in a good number of years. But the things that come across at the moment are fairly dry, if I'm absolutely honest. It is access. You know, flag carriers are important. If you've got a destination with a national flag carrier, either of that destination or your own that's heading there, you're better secure for access should things need to be curtailed, cancelled, people need to be repatriated or so on. Security and safety, again, there are places around the world that, you know, aspirational to travel to, but there's a little bit of a nagging doubt at the moment as to whether or not they're in the right place to be able to handle what the future may hold. Hygiene is another one on there. So it's an opportunity, if you like, to revisit some of the destinations that have been at one time done to death, frankly, but have been sat there a little bit on the wayside for a little bit of time. And we feel that those are the destinations that we're keeping an eye on at the moment because of those sort of considerations, risk management. The corporates now are managing what their individuals want as opposed to where perhaps they would like to see. I think that's one of the biggest things. It's also about your supply chain. You know, where are hotels strong? I mentioned the flag carriers going in and out. Where is the ground agency network very, very strong? Those are the main considerations. Creativity comes in by reimagining destinations that have actually been done before. That's the feedback we seem to be getting from the network here in the UK.
And that's quite interesting to hear, Chris. I mean, for us right now, Canada, I mean, I feel like we're one of those destinations that are being looked at again through a new set of eyes. You know, as you know, with the recent industry index report, Canada right now has a fantastic spotlight in terms of where we rank as appeal for destinations for future programs. All falling in line with, you know, the safety and security component, how it's handled the pandemic, but also, like you said, just the creativity, but looking at destinations that may not have been the bright and shiny, sexy place to go before, and then following a post-pandemic world, all of these things are changing now, and the new sexy is very different than what the sexy was before, right?
I think that's right, and I'd also say there's been a hiatus of incentive activity, which will essentially be for a couple of years. You know, if you think about it, events that maybe were planned at the beginning of 2020 that have been put back till the beginning of 2021. I personally have an event in Canada that has done that, and now it's been put back to 2022, which is a hiatus of about 2 years. So corporates that are doing that might not even know who they're employing at that point. There might be new people coming in. It might be that actually there's this sort of feeling that, you know, familiarity is sexy. It's like, let's go somewhere that we don't have to feel on edge. And right. Canada certainly fits that bill. I mean, you know, it's an enormous country. It's a very diverse country in terms of its offering, and it's perceived, or was often perceived in the UK particularly, as a seasonal destination. But we all know that that's not actually the case. You know, it's a 4 seasons destination. It just depends on whether you go east, west, centre, or south, north. So I think that does fit in well. And there are other places, you know, in Europe, Scandinavia, the Spains of the world that have been particularly popular with the UK in the past. I do think that they're going to come back on stream, but looking at it through slightly different eyes.
Right. Colette, same question goes to you. What is it about a destination that you're evaluating and prioritizing through a new set of eyes? Colette.
Okay. So it's Australians are really great incentive travelers. When we travel for 7 to 10 days, which I think is probably double what most of our colleagues around the world are doing. And as a result, we invest big in the incentive experience. What we're looking for more than ever now is immersion. It's not just about plucking the best of, but it's about becoming a part of the destination that we travel to. And that doesn't always mean that we're looking for super high end, but there needs to be this undulation. We need to be able to feel a part of the place that we're traveling to. We want to experience culture rather than just see culture. We've actually never been good about just seeing things. Aussies really like to get in amongst it. I think one of the best things about our casual lifestyle in Australia is that it leads to some level of innovation. We are okay about making mistakes so long as we continue to create possibilities. We're rather forgiving, I think, of ourselves and of each other. So we don't push so hard for absolute perfection, but what we do expect is that there is some level of innovation. And when we're looking at a destination, what becomes really important to us is that as we piece together all of those beautiful experiences, that we actually turn this into some kind of story. And it should be a story that can be recounted when they return to their home destination. So for us in particular, we are very much about storytelling, about making sure that every component of our programs is developed by key storytellers. So it could be the facilitators, it could be the speakers, it could be entertainers, it could be caterers, but every one of them has a story to tell. And what we're looking for is immersing our guests in that, broader story, and then creating a really wonderful journey that they'll be able to recount when they return home. So immersion. What was the question? Immersion.
That was fantastic. And, I loved your statement about it's okay to make mistakes,
It's okay.
It's okay. And a lot of us forget that sometimes, right? We forget. We strive for perfection. We strive for success. But in order to have success, we need to make mistakes. And I think this past year, one thing that we've all learned is it's okay to have bumps in the road once in a while, That's how we get to the next part. How do we get to the next part of the road? So, and I also like what you said about stories and storytelling. Chris had mentioned earlier, but one of the things that we're starting to see now is it is about the experience. It's about the stories, and it's the experiences that you can take home with your family and your friends and your colleagues that you can share through these stories. So,
look, it perpetuates the next incentive, doesn't it? If the stories are good, we are good storytellers in this country. We don't mind actually new facts to create a better story. That is another national trait for us. But I think in Australia we have a saying: make sure you have a go. So it's not about sitting back and saying this isn't perfect. I'm not sure I can do it. What we say is have a go. Just get in there. Just do it. Give it a try. And along the way, you are going to hone your craft and start creating something really exceptional for people.
Right. Thank you, Colette. Anne-Marie.
Oh, hi. Okay. And so I love what Colette said. Our clients are a little bit more cautious now. So I think we're looking for a little more reassurance. I'm hearing, we're really looking at health and safety protocols. And we always had standards of, fire codes and earthquake codes, but now there are completely new standards for safety. And for us, it's all about reassuring our stakeholders that their guests are going to be safe. So, registration in some cases is going to change. We're going to have to be doing contract tracing and proof of vaccine and things like that, where we never had to do that before. So we're looking at destinations through those eyes. Service standards are higher than ever. Looking at, and this all seems a bit mundane. After listening to Colette, I'd like to go on one of her programs because we're looking at redesigns of buffets and food service styles, and of course creativity in terms of spacing and seating, and back to the safety, but better use of technology, the hotels being touchless, the admission touchless, itineraries on apps, everything like that. In all of our conversations we've been having with our clients is all about kind of reassuring them that it's going to be safe to travel again, and what assurances can we give them that things will be okay. And they still want the experiences, but they definitely want the reassurances. And in looking at destinations, we're looking at closer to home. We're looking at smaller trips that can be better contained, and also always having a backup plan in place. And then the last point that I was thinking about when we were preparing for this is just hybrid is always going to be a part of this now for the people that don't feel comfortable traveling. Making sure that we can use technology to engage them on a hybrid level while still engaging the participants that are there in person. So I guess we're, needing to think more strategically and analytically and really be able to show the value of these trips.
Right. And it's interesting because, health and safety now we're hearing it's the number one factor, right, for the delegate journey to reinstill the delegate journey's confidence or, your traveler's confidence, et cetera. And I know, being from Canada, we were just voted one of the safest places to travel in the future, moving forward. So for us, it's health and safety has always been a huge component of our culture and, our plan, our programs, et cetera. But now in this post-COVID era, everybody's looking at this new set of eyes now, and that's the number one priority what everybody is seeing. It's one thing for travel restrictions to be lifted or bans to be lifted, but to have that confidence reinstilled and be able to travel again, it's very, very important. Thank you for sharing, Anne-Marie. Yeah.
Well, and it's changed as a planner. It's really changed how we propose things to our clients, because in the past it would be, what is something they can't do on their own, the bucket list item somewhere really off the grid. And now it's a lot more back to what is somewhere that will be a wonderful, rewarding experience, but yet very safe, not too far away, kind of thing. So we're kind of pulling back from our, strategy of really bucket list items and hopefully making things that are closer to home more bucket list.
Right. And bucket list items now are considered the new luxury, right? The authenticity versus the traditional sense of what luxury used to be before. So. And that's a great segue into our next question, Chris. We've all sat in on every virtual conference we can. We've listened to every webinar there is. We've read every industry report, every survey that's out there. And we all know that when incentive travel returns, that 2021, 2022 programs, they will be changing. They will change. We know that.
Sure.
So can you share some of what your examples are, or any insights in terms of curating and developing these new programs, but also what is, besides the safety and security and everything that we're already reading and we know, but what is the number one factor, would you say, when your client is sourcing new destinations now?
I think that there is more emphasis on what do the individual participants want, where do they want to go. We've all worked with corporates that have maybe the organizer of the event from their perspective has got their agenda, and that's great. That's great, because often they've been there, they've done that, they've got a t-shirt to prove it, and they want to do something new. An awful lot of companies, got a sophisticated travel audience as well that have been maybe participating on these incentives for years, in some instances decades. But I think now that there is an opportunity for people to engage their audience, engage their audience more, to find out what flicks their switch. Maybe we go back to a time when the incentive is launched and it's like, here's 5 destinations that we're considering. It'd be good to actually get a little bit of guidance from the audience themselves as to where they're going, particularly when they're couples incentives or partnered incentives, because I think we're moving into a new normal. I hate that expression. In fact, step that expression, but we are moving into a place that is slightly unknown, and therefore by definition what you don't want to do is alienate anybody, make anybody feel uncomfortable. Quite often as well, they're paying tax on this as a reward, as a benefit. People don't like paying taxes anyway on things like that, but if they are paying taxes, whether individually or the corporate is paying, they want to know that the audience is excited about where they're going. I do think, I mentioned it before, that sort of back to the future, but I do think we are going to roll back in a positive way, in a time when, there was less, what can I say? There was sort of less snob factor about where they're going. There was, it was exciting. It was about, we're going to the Costa del Sol, we're going to Vancouver, we're going to New York, we're going to these places that people have often done themselves. They may have done them as a corporation. And so I think that the opportunity now is to, as I mentioned before, to reimagine destinations that have gone before, but to actually get audience participation. So the comms, the pre-event comms, maybe we'll go back to a little bit more of a sexy, tangible communication platform, as opposed to just everything online, because we're all a little bit fatigued with the online everything. I think that's coming. So maybe we can start looking, and corporates will start looking at that sort of more aspirational communication program, which I think has been forgotten in the past, in recent past. It's like, we're going to Nepal, we're going to Brazil and Argentina, and the communications are lovely, electronic pictures and so on, but actually having that tangibility again, the teaser programs that we used to all do that have fallen a little bit by the wayside. that seems to be something that there's a spark of interest there again now. The attention to detail, maybe it's that opportunity of going back to the days when, it's a black tie event in the evening, and actually the room gift might be a spare button and needle and thread, and maybe little things, but just those attention to details that we've let go by the wayside a little bit in favor of the experience. The experiential is what it's all about.
Right.
The journey to get there, it could almost be anywhere. The journey to get there needs to be as refined and as sexy and as aspirational as the actual destination itself. I think that seems to be, bringing the good of the old back into the future.
Well, and I love what you said about Back to the Future, aspiration, creativity, etc. Because as we know, the trends are different. The buying trends now moving forward are going to be different. People are looking for experiential reward. They're looking for transformational travel. They're looking for pureness of getting back into the nature and experiencing things from a grassroots level. So you're right. So the communication around it needs to change. We're not looking at the traditional sense of luxury anymore. Things are a bit more, like I said, grassroots, a bit more raw than they were.
Absolutely. And you used the word pureness, and I think that's pretty perfect for covering that off. I think luxury means different things. It's always mean different things to different people.
Right.
It's always meant. But there has been, without a shadow of a doubt, a move towards a participation as opposed to passively going with the flow. So, luxury itself could be, arriving refreshed by traveling in a premium cabin on the aircraft, to a choice of personalization on the actual event. Again, that seems to be something that's happened quite a lot in recent years, and I see that absolutely going forward, even maybe amplified, where you may have a group of people and there will be sections of the program where the group are together, probably dinners, but personalizing the experiences that they may want to participate in. You take Vancouver. I've gone back to Canada again, but take Vancouver as an example. It's an activity. It's very much biased towards people who enjoy the great outdoors. But there's an awful lot of culture there. There's an awful lot of things that you can just enjoy without necessarily having to zip wire through a forest or go skiing, even if you don't want to go skiing. And I think that's the same wherever it is. Culture means different things to different people in the same way that luxury does. I think everybody wants to feel safe where they're staying, safe and comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That familiarity of getting back to the hotel in the evening, ordering a gin and tonic, talking about your experiences of the day, which might all be quite different, but they have come together at different points in the day. Again, it's that sort of, dine around experience that we used to always do on one or two of the evenings that people used to sign up for, but taking it to a whole other level. And the pureness of it, the experiential pureness of it, I think is key.
Colette, just touching on what Chris had just mentioned, how we know that 21 and 22 programs again are changing. Can you share some examples in terms of how you're curating or developing new experiences, and what is the number one factor when sourcing a new destination?
So, the number one factor is absolutely readiness of a destination. And I think, again, from our little part of the world down here, we won't be traveling anywhere anytime soon. But when we do start to travel again, it will be about the readiness of the destination. And that's going to be everything from the travel, making sure that the air schedules are back up and running, that there's a capacity for us to be able to travel, that the destination is open and ready for business. And I think that's a tricky one, because we've seen across the globe people are being furloughed, made redundant. We have these expectations of these service levels, but is everybody back at work? Do we have all of the skills and experienced personnel back, working these destinations? And then the other is, the hospitality industry. So has it survived in that destination all of those repeated shutdowns? And I think if the readiness is evident and in place, then we can start to look at the program. And for us, we also are looking to say that, the product has adjusted accordingly as well. So there is obviously, it's ambitious for us to say that our incentives will return in the same way that they did. But the adjusted version for us, for example, we absolutely consider that wellness is the new luxury. And that, in the old days, wellness was a massage and a facial down at the Glamorous Spa. And we all felt great about ourselves. It felt fantastic. Just dedicate 90 minutes of time, and that was wellness in your program. But these days, it's really and truly, it's about focusing on our health and taking that time to check, is our mental health in check? Are we able to manage our anxieties? Can we take this time when we have our guests away with us in the best of our best and, help guide them through that? Can we give them all the tools to be able to manage, the true work-life balance, which is so very different, particularly when your work and your life are in exactly the same residence under the same roof. So, on wellness, we're talking about making sure that we've brought to the program elements that will ensure our guests are energized, making sure that they're feeling mentally fit to take on that next challenge. It's just a bigger message than we used to have before, but it will impact upon everything: the food that we're eating, the way that we travel, the duration of our travel. Yes, again, we obviously are looking at things like luxury and so on, but maybe a return to nature. So all of those things, I think, sort of come under that banner of wellness. And I think at the end of the day, if the destination is ready, if we've sort of responded and make sure that the health of our guests is in check, the next most important thing is absolutely the social interaction and making sure that those big social moments are still a part of the program. And those social moments have typically been, underscored by big events and, big messaging and so on. But it may be as simple as interacting with local families or local growers or, but just making sure that we've got that human connection throughout our programs as well.
And I'm glad you brought up wellness, because that is something now that we're seeing a lot of, right? I mean, Absolutely. I've had many discussions that we're having is, these programs need to be transformational, spiritual, holistic, kind of back to the grassroots of nature, for example. So it's definitely changing. So the programs are changing for the future, and we're starting to see that through conversations that we're having now. So I'm happy that you brought it up.
And Jennifer, I think as an industry, we're guilty of not. The wellness message has been a little bit lost on ourselves. We worked those long hours. We travelled relentlessly. We cut corners. We cut corners to make it happen and to deliver. And I think the past year has taught us to take that step back, to focus on, strengthening ourselves. And I think that we will be better at delivering that message as a result.
I agree. Breathe and take a step back and look after ourselves. Very important.
Yeah.
Anne-Marie.
Well, to piggyback on what Chris and Colette said, the destination, we're having to really evaluate the destination. And I'm thinking, too, on a lot of the programs that we've booked and are rebooking, it's a matter of making sure the destination is ready, that the hotel is the same hotel that you booked the last time. Does it have 5 restaurants? Does it have the same amenities that you had before when you were planning this? And making sure that they can really perform what you thought they could perform before and deliver that experience. I would agree that we're looking at experiences that are much more personalized, rather than huge group events, much more personalized, definitely focusing on mental health, and definitely focusing on CSR and involving the community and doing projects and things like that that are going to bring the group to a level of feeling that they are giving back and doing something important. But really making sure that the destination has adapted and is ready, because a lot of the destinations will tell you they're ready, but the rules and regulations are changing so much, and they change so much from state to state, from country to country. From the time you book it to the time it operates, things could have changed completely. So it's on us to make sure that those things are ready and correct, and that we can provide these experiences that our guests will really be happy with.
Right. Okay, let's go back to Chris. Chris? Well, Chris, you've given us a lot of golden nuggets to take away today, which has been amazing, and thank you. So my last question, but I feel like you've pretty much listed them all off already, but could you leave a final jewel in terms of how a memorable takeaway, it can be 1 or 2 sentences, an inspiration, a vision, whatever that may be for our audience to take away for the rest of the day?
I kind of have answered it, but I would say that, you know, COVID has perhaps made us all appreciate how fragile the status quo of everything is. And I mean everything, from going to get your groceries to, more importantly, meeting up with your family and your friends. And we're human and we're sociable, and these sort of hybrid online events, if you like, are a means to an end, and a powerful one. And they work, and to a degree, I think a lot of them will, to a degree, stay part and parcel of going forward. But I think that people can't wait to get going again. I think they want the world to reopen. I think those with families, in particular, are, as much as they must love their families, are probably, to put it kindly, can't wait to dust off the passport. And I think that there's going to be a hunger for a shared experience again, you know, stories again, bragging rights for when the pub opens again. Mm-hmm. I just think that we need to manage the risk a little bit better, but you can still be creative. So I would say that those that are in the market to reward and award and incentivize and motivate their audience are going to find a very receptive audience who are, like I say, perhaps slightly less blasé about what they do and where they go, just hungry for that shared experience for at least the next couple of years. And I think the experience from the agency side, from the supply chain above and below, I think the experience and that sort of safety net, that pair of arms that is going to make people say it's going to be great, it's going to be okay. I think that for the future or the near future are the things to look out for. Let's not look back. We're human. We want to interact, and I think now's the opportunity to do it.
Well, thank you, Chris. So Colette, your final jewel. What is your final jewel, words of inspiration that you leave with us today?
No pressure, of course. I think that we have to remember that curiosity is a real part of our human spirit, and feeding that curiosity is something that we do when we're presenting these incentive programs, and we hope that it will be enough to drive the success of the campaign. And we need to lean into that. I think that everyone is feeling a little wounded after the last 12 months. Like, it's not okay to race back out there and, try to create bigger and better. It's okay, but we all know there's a time frame to this, and it's not going to be tomorrow. It's going to be a little bit down the track. So for those of us, who've been in the industry for any measure of time, everyone is incredibly capable at managing logistics and process management. But I'm going to bring it back to the craft of storytelling, because that's what we are. That's our artistic ability, isn't it? This is what we present to the world, the ability to put these stories together, to find the immersive experience, And I think what you will find is that it will never be neatly packaged up waiting for you at any destination. It's going to be about you digging a little deeper, about finding the story, about finding all the right partners. And that's where it takes a team to create these things. Look for the right destination, the right DMC, the right venues, the right caterers. All of these people will form part of your team, your creative team, as well as your logistical team. And that's going to help you create these beautiful, immersive stories that will be recounted time and time again. And take it from me, I'm an old girl in this industry. Some of those stories have been running for a good 30 years because we did it right when we got the team right. And I think the other big one for me is, don't ever settle. If you're not happy with something in your program, if you think that there is something that's just okay, that's exactly how your guests are going to receive it. It's only going to be perceived as okay. You've taken them out of their environment. They've gotten their heads around the fact that they're traveling again. You know, they've broken down all the barriers to be able to get away and accept this reward and open themselves to it. Give them the best experience that you can, and don't settle for anything. If you think it's not great, it's not great. Keep pushing until you achieve the program that you've fallen in love with yourself. And if you fall in love with it, when you present it, you know those guests will be the same. And you know that that will just completely enhance the total experience. It will be memorable, and it will make those people proud that they've made their achievement. And of course, you know, as we always say, when they return and they tell the stories, that helps generate the success for the following year.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm inspired, Colette. Thank you for those words. And Anne-Marie, what is your golden nugget that we can take away today?
Well, I think anyone in the planning world is going to be a better planner after the events of the last year. We've all had to adapt and change, learn new skills, how to pivot to virtual, how to produce, how to engage on different platforms. So I think one of the silver linings is that, and as planners, we all have extremely high expectations, always trying to plan the best program. But I think our travelers and our attendees are going to be so excited to be back traveling. And some of these experiences, as we have learned in the last year, to step back, to take a breath, to really engage and immerse yourself in what's going on. I think everyone's going to be a little bit more open to this now. So I think our biggest challenge will be adjusting to our new normal and continuing to create new meaningful experiences for our clients and attendees. But I think that the events of the last year are really going to make that, it's going to be a reinvention. I really think so.
Reinvention, which ties in to the theme of this actual session. So thank you, Chris. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you, Colette, for all of you for sharing your valued insights with us today. On behalf of myself and everyone here on the panel, it's been a true pleasure spending the last 30 minutes with you. Thank you for your continued resilience as we navigate this year together. We know and we all look forward to the day that we can connect in person. Thank you.